What's up everyone, Tech Mindset here. In today's video, we're unboxing one of the things I had wanted to have on this channel since I started making videos, and that's the Steam Deck, which recently had its first birthday. The Steam Deck is 298 millimeters wide, 117 millimeters tall, and 49 millimeters thick. It weighs approximately 669 grams or 1.47 pounds. It's hefty in the hands, but lighter than a small laptop like the M2 MacBook Air. The Steam Deck boasts an AMD APU consisting of 4-core, 8-thread Zen 2 CPU and 8 RDNA 2 compute units for the GPU, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and 3 different storage options. The Steam Deck is primarily priced on the storage, with the 64GB eMMC version coming in at $399, 256GB NVMe version coming in at $529, and the fastest storage of the 512GB version coming in at $649. The 512GB version also comes with an update to the screen via the anti-glare etching. Aside from the storage and screen differences, all versions come with a carrying case, and the 256 and 512 versions come with a few extra goodies. All versions come with microSD support, and I've seen other YouTubers using 1TB microSD cards, which is pretty cool. The screen is a 7-inch 1280 by 800 60Hz refresh rate IPS LCD panel with a 16:10 aspect ratio and supports touch. The typical brightness is 400 nits, and if you're like me, I probably won't be running at full brightness all the time unless I'm in a really bright area. There's also an ambient light sensor on there as well. I have mixed feelings on the screen because it's serviceable enough to do the job, but I'd like to imagine what this would have looked like with an OLED panel like the Nintendo Switch now has. Not to mention my gaming PC has a QD OLED panel and a 175Hz refresh rate, so for me it can be jarring to go from buttery smooth gameplay on my computer and then back to a 60Hz panel and maybe sub 60 FPS game on a Steam Deck. The Steam Deck has a typical button layout that you would expect with a controller, but with a few extra buttons and trackpad for navigating games that may need you to use a mouse cursor. If you've ever used the Steam controller, then you already know what to expect with the trackpads. There's a vibration under them that pulse as you move your thumbs around. On the left side of the face, there is a Steam button, and on the right, there is a quick access button. Both of these will get you into the Steam Deck's menus to navigate between games or to see battery and adjust other settings. There are 2 speakers that flank the screen, and I wouldn't expect them to be as good as a home theater system, obviously, but they're good enough to hear what you're doing. But if you're out and about, you're probably going to want to have headphones anyways. The Steam Deck also has 6 axes of gyro controls, and while I've seen it used in a game like Aperture Death Job, you have to rest your thumb on the joystick before the gyro function can be used. The joysticks have capacitive touch. I think it could provide a little assistance in an FPS game to help you aim, which actually sounds reminiscent of using the sniper rifle in Killzone 2 with the PS3's controller. Along the top of the Steam Deck, there are bumpers and triggers, volume up and down, an exhaust fan, Type-C port for charging and data, status LED, and a power button. The back side of the device includes 4 extra buttons and air intake. Near the top of the device above the screen, there are 2 microphones. The Steam Deck has Bluetooth 5.0 and dual band Wi-Fi. I did a speed test and it was pulling somewhere around 600 to 700 megabits. You will know that if you want to play anything newer, you need to have an SD card or swap the SSD with the larger capacity, the latter of which has been warned against by Valve, so the easiest option would be to grab the fastest and largest supported micro SD card. That said, it is possible to swap the SSD on the Steam Deck with a guide and some careful handling, and there are 1TB options as well as a 2TB Western Digital SSD out there right now, though it must be said that doing this is not sanctioned by Valve because of thermal and power usage of the drives they use. Keep that risk in mind if you intend on going this route. That said, I did end up swapping the 64GB drive out with a 1TB drive. Make sure you've subscribed to my channel to see that video when it drops. I may add a 1TB micro SD card here eventually to have even more capacity, but before I do that, I want to try to dual boot Windows and SteamOS now that I have more storage to work with. The battery is hard to talk about because it really depends on what you're doing with the Steam Deck. The battery is advertised as being between 2 to 8 hours, which is a very wide range. Playing a simple indie game, I've seen the battery estimate be in the 6 to 8 hour range as advertised, but trying out a more graphically intensive game results in the battery being reported as empty in 2 hours or less. A 45-watt USB Type-C charger comes with the Steam Deck, but the cable isn't very long. When I get more settled in with it, I love to test it on the couch while playing and see how it runs while also charging the device. With all that out of the way, it's time to power on the Steam Deck for the first time. We're greeted by a welcome screen to choose the language and then a screen to select the time zone. After that, it's time to get connected to the Wi-Fi, and then the Steam Deck will run some updates and then restart. Once that's all done, we're back to the welcome screen again, and once we get past that and the Wi-Fi, we're greeted with a login screen. Once logged in, we get a brief tutorial of the buttons and how to navigate the interface. Not every Steam game is Steam Deck compatible, so not everything in my library will work. Each game will have some information on how it works on the Steam Deck, either not at all, works well, or it has something to note before you start playing. For example, some games may need to use the mouse and keyboard, so you'll have to use the trackpad for the mouse and the on-screen keyboard when needed. SteamOS is Linux-based. With the push of a button, you're able to see a desktop view. I want to see if I can get the Linux version of DaVinci Resolve running on the Steam Deck. Let me know if that's something you'd like to see in a future video in the comments below. With the 1TB SSD installed, whenever I get a chance to leave it on and let it finish, I'll have over 20 games installed, including titles like Uncharted 4, God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, etc. So far, I believe for heat and battery, I will need to adjust the settings of games way down to get higher frame rates and less stress on the unit. I think it was pretty cool to see Kratos on the 7-inch screen, even if it was running a little choppy at the time. If I can find a happy medium between performance and graphic settings, as long as it holds a smooth 60 FPS, it should be sufficient for gaming on the go. A good example of demonstrating the Steam Deck's controls and features is the Aperture Desk Job, which is free to play. I'll show a little bit of gameplay here, though I already played it when the Steam Deck first came out by connecting my Steam controller to my PC, but it was nice to see the features actually being used on the Steam Deck this time. All in all, I'm excited to do more with the Steam Deck, and make sure to get subscribed for more content like this. That's all for this one, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.